Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. We've helped thousands of people save time and make more money by improving their online stores. Check out patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for thousands of hours of full-length ad-free podcasts and coaching calls. Join our Facebook group with thousands of sellers making the transition from hobby to business. See you in the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today, I want to address what I consider sort of the perfect eBay store. And we talk about this a lot, and things start to get easier at 30 items a day. But today I want to talk about a 30 item a day listing habit at home, how we would approach this at $15 profit per item. So that's 30 items a day, $15 profit per item at home. How would we approach it? So what are your initial thoughts?
I did this model for a very long time, and this was kind of the sweet spot where I was making a tremendous amount of money before it turned into like pretty much all consuming of your entire life. So I think that after 30 items a day is when maybe you need to start storing your items offsite because you need more room. Maybe you need to start hiring help or hiring an employee. The listing goal becomes much more aggressive. So your sourcing goal must become much more aggressive. And as your listing goal becomes more aggressive, your profit margins begin to shrink, and you have to absorb that by doing extra volume. But I think that, many people can develop the Rolodex where they can go after the items that you're using as an example and target those $15 profit items. I think very kind of routinely those items are out at the thrift store. So I guess what that looks like to me is that would be a $30 average sale price with what $8 cost of goods at the thrift. Yep. And after shipping $6 or so, that brings you to 14, and then you have a couple dollars in fees. So you're right around the $15 price point. Yep. So you're really looking for a $30 average sale price, including shipping, and anything lower than an $8 buy cost. So if you can go to the flea market and get lower, yep. If you have thrift stores that have dollar days or half price or Frenzy Fridays or whatever it is, yep. Garage sales, any kind of sourcing where you could be under $8 buy cost to bring down your average cost of goods to pad your average profit per item. I think that this is the best place to be. If you're really on top of it, you can get this done within a half day.
That's exactly right. And it's just based on a half day of processing. And we're going to go over that today, how we would approach customer service, shipping, and then half a day looking for goods. And I think there's two ways I would either approach this, because $15 profit for me, my Rolodex is okay, but it would still take me at least 10 hours hunting for me to find that many items. So I think I would do either 2 full long days of looking for stuff, or I would have a route that I go 5 to 7 days a week, a shorter one, hopefully different stores to give myself the best chance to find 210 solid items per week. Either I would approach it either 2 full days or like different stores, ideally 5 to 7 days a week, and then maybe do the rotation every week.
So for $15 profit, $30 sales per day, that would be $450 a day profit.
That's right.
That would give you a little bit under $165,000 in profit per year.
Yep.
And that looks like 30 sales at $30 each, $900 a day in sales.
Yep.
So you're looking at $165,000 a year in profit on a store that you can knock out the work portion of it, shipping, photography, customer service, and listing in a half day. Sourcing, yep. That's different for everyone because some people have to have a long sourcing route, mm-hmm. but like the quote unquote work portion of it, you can knock that out in a half day. And like, there aren't a lot of businesses or business models where, you can make almost $200,000 a year. And if you really get after it and know what you're doing and have streamlined processes, you can knock out 30 sets of photos and 30 listings in a half day.
So Michelle in the chat is saying an everything seller would have a difficult time doing 30 a day. Usually, because if you add up the processing time for 30 different types of items, you would definitely not be able to do it in half a day if they were totally different.
Sure, but that's your choice. So
Yeah.
it's totally up to you. Like there's a lot of ways how like we recommend and the math adds up and it's humanly possible to do this.
Yep.
If we decide to do otherwise, that's within your right and that's your choice. And like a lot of people, like the discussion comes up all the time and it's like, how do I get these results without doing it that way?
Yep.
And there's no way to get those results without doing it that way. So like the way to get 30 done in a half day, photos and listing, is to do it how we talk about. And to follow this model, we have the zip code call. And I'm confident that I can walk into any thrift store in America and find at least 10 or 15 items that meet this metric. So what is that? Three thrift stores a day that I have to stop at, come back home, process the stuff, list it. Half day and you're on to something else. But if you choose to do sombrero, toaster oven, video game system, shoes, a couple shirts, all of that other stuff, absolutely. The time horizon starts to extend, but the more narrow you can get, the more focus that you can get, the quicker you can get this done. That is an option as well. Just like it's an option to do everything else, it is an option to be narrow and focus on the most streamlined, most efficient way to do this.
I want to talk about storage a little bit. If you had a perfect 1% or higher sell-through rate, you'd have 3,000 items in your store. If you go really tight and you only find items that are under 1 pound, then that looks like 3 or 4 Husky shelves. Like it's like maybe 200 square feet of shelving. If you have like, that's where, I'm sorry, 200 square feet for the total eBay store. But when you start adding in things that are not that shape, it can be your whole house, your backyard, your kitchen. It's just really hard to store things that are not similar. So we're not saying you have to be niched down. We're just explaining the difference between where you, like for me, the bike, the one bike in my weekly route was never in my eBay area. It was at home or in the garage or something completely in the way. And that's what happens when you start having totally random items. It totally messes with your storage space.
It messes with everything. It messes with your listing, messes with your storage space. If someone has a question, you can't provide proper customer service because the bike is not even on site at work, it's at home. So you have to guess or tell them you'll catch them later, which probably doesn't happen, and you potentially lose out on a sale. So, I mean, all of those things are variables and they're fine. But again, those are our choices to do when we're out picking up stuff. But if you have the discipline, and the business model that we're talking about is $15 profit per item, you can forego the bicycle to find an item that you can make $15 profit on, because that is your business. That is your business model. And if you came over here and you sat me down and you explained to me and said, hey, all you have to do is refine your Rolodex and know the brands that sell for $15 profit, and you could live a simple, beautiful, stress-free life. I would sign on the dotted line and I would easily look past every single bicycle, even if I can make $800 profit on it, because that X's out what everyone claims that they want. A simple, stress-free life on your own schedule and your own terms. Once you add all of these complications, you start checking off those things that we all say we want in exchange for bringing home a bicycle every single week.
Yeah, so the model is essentially $30, including shipping, and a buy cost of less than $8, around that metric. So when you're shopping, you just look for less than $8 and above $23, $25 plus shipping, and you're in that range. But there's, secret, and this is maybe no secret, but there's only maybe 1,000 brands that do that. And you can learn which ones are available in your area. And then if they're not in your area, you have to go somewhere else. And plenty of people in the group make a 2-day trip or a 1-day trip and get the item somewhere else. There's somewhere near you that has these. And it's going to depend. It's very regional, which I think is awesome. Even just the sports teams regionally would be enough to find 30 items a day.
Sure, absolutely. You just have to go out, know where to look, and know what you're looking for. And the more brand knowledge that you have, the less stops you have to make. So for you, a year ago, you didn't have enough brand knowledge like you do today.
Yeah.
So it was more difficult for you to source and you had to spend more time sourcing. Now it's almost to the point where your brand knowledge is so large and you've developed these relationships where now you have the opportunity to turn down inventory because you're getting enough and you have too much. So if you know exactly what you're looking for, you don't have to make that extra stop. You don't have to go to 5 stores. Maybe you have to go to look for 3. Maybe you go and look for 2. Maybe you go to the first one and you find 30 items at the first store, and you take your butt back home and you get listed and you do your work and you find something else to do for the rest of the day. So the more brand knowledge you have makes your sourcing that much easier. So for me, I think that I have a pretty good brand knowledge. That's why I don't even have to source at all anymore. If you had no brand knowledge, you would get a bunch of garbage and you would be out of business. If you have exact parameters of what you're looking for, you could just go have other people find it for you and bring it and have 0 defects, 0 loss, 0 garbage. Everything is either listable or can be made profitable on a different avenue. But the least amount of brand knowledge you have, the more time it's going to take for you to source, whether it's an extra store or spending more time on the road finding items, because you are passing on profitable items that you just don't know about.
That's exactly right. If you know exactly what you're looking for, also other people can help you find it. If you're going to the flea market or to a garage sale and you have a list of what you're looking for, it's that person's garage sale. They know if they have that. I've seen people at garage sales that say, I'm only looking for these items. You don't have them? Cool. Next garage sale. I'll just keep going. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And that's a really niche seller that has consolidated all their processing time. If you truly love shopping, you can narrow down the eBay work portion to 2 hours a day and knock out your 30 listings, or even 1 hour a day. And then you're 7 hours on the road. If that's what you're really passionate about, you could say no to Patagonia. If you were that narrow, you could say, no, it's okay. That's only $15 profit.
Sure. Absolutely. But there's also a point where it becomes too narrow, and then you kind of reach this inflection point where now it does take you again longer to source items.
Yeah.
So, you have to find that balance. But as long as you have your targets and you have your business model and you know what you're looking for, you just go down the aisle and this is a keeper. I'm taking this. This is good. This is good. This fits what I'm looking for. And when you walk out the door, you have, plenty of items, and maybe you don't have to spend so much time on the road. So when my listing goal was at, the most aggressive for the longest time that I had was 120 items a day. I did go to 140 and then I went to 160 for a very short time before I started hiring employees and getting help. But when I was doing 120, I did that for several years. And that took 55 thrift stores a week and 3 times at the flea market. 2 of those days, I went to 2 flea markets on Saturday and Sunday each. So you're talking tens of hours a week, like 40, 50, 60 hours a week, just sourcing, because the listing goal became so large. But when I was doing 30 a day, you're talking a handful of hours per week, just to pick up 30 items a day, because I knew exactly what I was looking for back then.
I want to give an example of too narrow. I followed my friend Matt around, who has a $40 profit minimum. So he only sells men's suits and he looks for a $40 profit. So he's looking essentially to spend no more than 20 and sell for 80 or more. And he says that he only finds 1 item every 2 stores. He has to look through every single item in the store. So he has to go to 10 stores minimum to find essentially 5 items per day. 10 stores to find 5 $40 items. That was his quota. The problem is sometimes you'll go to 10 stores and find 0 items that are $40 profit, because that's a really high threshold. You can get in trouble. I think the first 4 or 5 stores that we went to, we found none. So it's nicer but if your profit margin goal is $1, then you only need to go to 1 store, but you will spend 10 hours of your day listing.
Sure. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just the lower your profit and the lower the average sale price, the more you have to list and the more you have to photograph. Yeah. If we could all list like 1 private jet and make 42 million, That's one listing and one set of photos. But unfortunately, we all have smaller average sale price and smaller margins. So we need to make up with that with more photography, more listing, and more shipping. So, you just have to find that sweet spot. And in my opinion, that sweet spot is thrift store, $30 average sale price. You still have control of your life. You could still go out and do other things. You're working from home. You have low or no overhead.
Yep.
And you just have the reoccurring cost every single day of 30 items times a $5 buy cost, either $150 or around $250 or so. And you just keep reinvesting that back into the business every single day. And you have $900 worth of sales after fees. You keep $450. Yep. And you just keep scraping that off the top and just keep reinvesting $150 to $250 every single day of really your original day one money. That just goes back into the business to buy more inventory. Everything on top of that gets scraped off and goes to the bank. And I was able to live a very beautiful life at that point. And really at that point is where I began to, get myself out of kind of the lifestyle that I was born into and accustomed to, and get into a better place for my family and I. Because when I was doing 30 items a day for eBay that year, my profit was slightly higher, closer to $20 per item. And my profit on my tax return, I remember, was $207,000 listing 30 items a day.
I think that you just nailed something pretty interesting. So you said between 150 and 240 a day to replenish that stock.
Correct. If you're between $5 and $8 buy cost. Yep.
So what that means is you get a bonus every time you do better. So you find something that's worth 50, you just gave yourself a raise, or you found something for 5, you gave yourself a raise.
Correct.
But so the thing is, in this model, it's still conservative, because you don't always spend 240 and you don't always get 30. Sometimes you get a nice piece.
Sure. Because the 30 is the average. So equal amount of items sell for 20 and equal amount of items sell for 40. And that gives you the $30 average sale price. But, the important part of this puzzle is that just listing 30 a day is not going to get you $165,000 a year in profit. That's theoretically speaking, because we're estimating that you also sell 30 items a day.
Yep.
Which you need to figure out what store size you need. You need to figure out what your conversion and what your click through is. And that is going to determine the sell through or the velocity of your items to get to that point where you are selling 30 items a day. But if you can list 30, sell 30, and do this model that we're talking about, the math is there. It's $165,000 a year profit.
Yeah, I think this is the key to thinking about. So you need the 3,000 items in your store. So that's going to cost between $15,000 and $24,000. But you don't need $15,000 to $24,000 to start. You can start with 0 and just reinvest until you have that amount in the store.
Sure. And there's a lot of examples of people in the group that have this model.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people posting $250,000 to $400,000 in sales. And that is right around the ballpark of this model, give or take, because you need $900 a day in sales.
Yep.
And I think that this is like a perfect husband and wife business.
Yep.
Finding 30, listing 30, photography 30. Everybody stays home. You store everything in a spare bedroom or the basement, and you and your spouse can do this business with very low stress. I would advocate each one of them photographs 15 and lists 15.
Yeah.
Rather than one person photographs and one person lists, because, if Jim doesn't photograph, Sally has nothing to list. So I would advocate to split the work duties down the middle, source together, ship together. One person picks, one person ships. And now you're talking, you could blow this thing out in a couple of hours per day if you really have 2 people get in after it.
You can even hang out all day. You can go source together. and
Absolutely, man.
go sourcing together, each come home. And I think it's really important to have the 15 a day each. And you both know how to do the whole thing. One
Right.
person can leave to take care of a family matter for 2 weeks. And instead of zero income, you just have half the income.
Sure. And like you said, you can hang out, and that's important to a lot of people, because we had the discussion once before in the morning call about like sourcing with the spouse. It's better to split up.
Yep.
But like if the model is 30 items bought, 30 items sold, you can knock it out in a half day. There's no reason to split up. You hang out with your partner for the whole day.
Yep.
You guys run the business together, make six figures, high six figures. You're doing great.
Yeah. And you can also double check every single item before you buy it.
Absolutely.
Get a second opinion on every single purchase. And that's worth it alone, just to make sure you don't make any bad buys.
Sure. Yeah. It's an absolute perfect model. There are a good amount of people that do it. It does take a lot of work to get to that point, because you do need to build a store that's either a couple thousand, a few thousand, or several thousand items large in order to get to the sell through of 30 items per day. But when I was doing 30 listings, 30 sold, my target for sell through was always 90 days. I wanted a 90-day sell through, 30 items listed, 30 items sold at a $30 average sale price.
So I want to talk about the scraping for a moment. If you're selling 30 items a day at $15 profit, there's $450 profit.
After fees, profit.
After fees. And that also includes the 150 to 240 to replenish, doesn't it?
No, the 450 is yours.
No, that's what I mean. That's 30, after already replenishing the items.
30 items, $30 in sales gives you $900.
Yeah.
Your original $200. Now that brings you down to $700.
Yeah.
$900. What do you got? $150 in fees.
Yeah.
That leaves you with $450.
But I also want to explain here, because let's say that you go out and you kill it and you only spend $150 to get your 30 items that day.
Sure.
To replenish. So you get your $450 plus you made another $90 because you put in the work to find cheaper items.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Yeah. And if you can go to the thrift, when I was going to the thrift, my buy cost was always between $7 and $8, always. If you can offset that even at 1 day a week at the bins, and you're laser focused on, $25 to $30 average sale price items that now you get for $1 or so, you bring down your average cost of goods probably close to $5. And that gives you much more leeway. And like you said, now it's not 165 profit. Now you're probably pushing closer to 200,000 profit just by offsetting 1 day and maybe, 50 to 100 items that at a much lower buy cost, because now you're getting 2 items for $10 roughly. And that's all of your items on average are $5. So now that brings you into the $5 to $30 average sale price. Now you're talking around $200,000 a year.
And I think that now it goes the other way too. You can overpay a little bit to get a good item, and that will, a couple of things. You get to get that good item that maybe is $12 at Goodwill and it's $50. You can afford to pick that up. And also, if you're starting to work with a buyer, you can say, pick up all this brand, so it'll help them make a couple bucks so they can survive, and they let the good ones slide too. That's important too, because you can't always be in a position where you can't pay up.
Right. The way how I always thought of that was that, let's say you buy 10,000 items, which I think the math works out to 30 items a day. You need roughly 10,000 items a year. If you buy 9,872 of those for $8 and you buy 100 of them for 12, the $12 doesn't even move the needle on average. Yeah, that's right. It brings you to like $8 and maybe 25 cents average cost of goods. Who cares? Yeah. But on that $12 purchase, like you said, that's going to be your $50 item. Yeah. So of course you make up for it. But like a lot of people, they always forget. Let's say it's I don't know, a Ralph Lauren Big Pony shirt. Those are $8 everywhere, just about, probably. Yeah. Sometimes you go to the thrift store and they mess up and price that thing for $2. Yep. Or for $4. That happens too. Yep. So when they mess up, we always forget about that. So when they mess up, you can mess up and buy that $12 item, because again, on average, it's 12 plus 2. Those 2 items cost you $7 each on average, and that's still under your $8 buy cost. So, remember all those times where you caught the thrift store slipping because they mispriced the item. That brings down your buy cost so much so that you do have a little bit of freedom and leeway to pay $12 or even $15 for an item that will sell for $50. Now, those are the exception, but if you make $15 your rule, then your buy cost starts getting into 9, 10, 11, 12. But you have to remember, you bought 9,000 items already at $8.
Mm-hmm.
The last 322 that you paid up for, it doesn't move your average buy cost up very much.
I guess, there's that one day where you put in the work and go to a garage sale or flea market or the bins. It gives you a huge sense of relief. Because when you find a couple items that are really good for $1 or $2, it takes a lot of pressure off. I just think that alone is worth going and just finding a few items for really cheap, because then there's not as much pressure to find 8 into 30, and then you don't have to force yourself to leave it if it doesn't seem like it meets the criteria. I just feel like 1 or 2 days at the flea market or bins will totally change your business.
Yeah, the flea market is really great. And, if it wasn't for that, like the flea market really took my business to the next level, much like it has for you. And I believe when we first started this group, you weren't hitting the flea market. But now your entire business revolves around your suppliers at the flea market.
Yeah.
So, not all flea markets are created equally, but like I would beg people to really seek out flea markets in their area and at least give them a shot. And we talk about on my Tuesday call how to kind of investigate which ones are good and which ones aren't so good before you even go out there. But if you do have the opportunity to go out there, that really did take my business to a next level, because if you can make those connections, especially with certain people out there, like the storage unit buyers and things like that, who see, especially if you're in the clothing niche, who see clothes as more of a burden. You could really, if you know what you're doing, you can pick up fantastic items for very cheap. And, they're doing you a favor, you're doing them a favor by, getting rid of the clothes for them. But that is an excellent place to source. If you don't have a flea market next to you, that's good. Hit the garage sales, because you can also find great things out there for oftentimes very cheap that can help, like you're saying, where you don't have the pressure of going to the thrift, spending 8, looking for 30. Now you can go to the garage sale, spend less than that, find the 20s, 25s, and the 30s, and still have that same spread.
So I think if at 30 items a day, your customer service should be about 10 minutes per session. So you can do that multiple times a day versus maybe a bigger store can't, because there's just more customer service. I mean, you can, but you can be really nimble. With 30 items a day, you're only getting a couple questions a day. You can literally instantly respond to everything at that volume.
Yeah, a couple questions a day, maybe a return every couple of days.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that, you have to start and stop as your store gets larger is just the sheer amount of volume of offers that come in. And if you're selling 30 items a day, there's just not that many offers coming in. You're going to get 15 or so, because 15 of your items are going to sell full price. 15 are going to sell by offer. Where for me, like, dude, the offers are never ending. I get a new offer every minute or two, and it is a lot of start and stop. And that's what we're talking about, the perfect size of that 30 sales a day, where you're going to get 15 offers throughout the day, 15 full price sales, a couple multi-quantity purchases, low messages, low customer service, low facilitating of returns. Everything is very manageable at that level.
Also, people don't know this if they're an everything seller, but 30 orders could be 17 shipments.
Right. Could be.
But if you're selling 30 random things, it's probably 30 random buyers. It's unlikely somebody picks up 2 random items. So I think people forget that, they just don't realize that when you sell all in one niche, it's Your average order size is close to 2. Mine's close to 2. That really helps. It's half the shipping.
Yeah. So I think like the store that's going to sell 30 items per day, I would say one order on average every day is going to be 2.
Yeah.
Because your store size isn't large enough to get a tremendous amount of multi-quantity orders or like repeat buyers coming every single day. It's just not large enough. But you know, once my store, I think, and I was talking about this with Linda last night, I want to say like 25 or 30,000 items, which is way too much to have a 30 sales business that we're talking about. That's when the multi-quantity orders and the huge amount of repeat buyers really started coming, was like when I had a much larger store. When I was doing 30 a day, I probably had 1, maybe 2 orders of 2. So again, it's very manageable, very low stress. And I'm trying to think of like what the hardest part of running a 30 a day store was. And it was probably the sourcing, because you still have to go out there and find the items and just spend time on the road. Because also, it might be possible, but I think 30 items a day, that's 210 a week. I don't know if you can find somebody who could be a dedicated sourcer for you.
No.
Maybe if they can make $5 per item, you know, they still make $1,000 a week. You could probably find somebody to do that, but I think it becomes much more difficult to kind of have someone strictly yours that's going to go out and source for you. So I think 30 items or less, you still have to hit the road and go through the motions and find your own items.
Thank you for listening to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, please check us out at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for all information, all our full-length episodes, over thousands of hours of coaching, and our Facebook mentorship group, which is $35 per month, just about $1 a day to help you get to the next level. We appreciate you guys. See you next time.